So today I'm going to be talking about planted seeds. So what does that mean? Essentially, when we look at our past or we think about today, what's going on in our lives, and are we having these repetitive relational behaviors? And what I mean by that is, if you think about, I continue to have these failed relationships, and we have all these blames, like, you're doing this to me, nobody's treating me right. Then you have to think about the root cause of why we continue to either attract or just continue to get involved in these relationships that we know are not good for us. And what is the root cause? A lot of the root cause of why we continue to be in the same relationships. We date the same person, but just with a different look, right? We continue to date the same person, but we're trying to figure out why. Why do we keep attracting these same people? We say that we date who we actually are. We attract what's inside of us. And so I'm going to I'm going to even take it personal and talk about myself when I think about generational curses, when I think about the root cause of who we are and why we behave in the manner that we do. So a lot of it has a lot to do with planted seeds, things that we were taught, and how we adopt those things and we allow it to uproot in us. And now they're either planting or bearing fruits or they're bearing weeds. So we have to figure out what we're going to keep with us and what we're going to take away, because what we'll continue to do is have this cycle that continues on because we don't realize the things that we're fighting that's already been uprooted in us. So hello, welcome to the Unfiltered Truth again. Thank you guys for joining. But I just want to talk tonight. It's very about planted seeds, about generational curses that are really affecting our relationships. Our relationships with a guy as a woman, our relationship with a woman as a man, or even in our families with our children, or things that we're passing down in our family that we don't even recognize. So a lot of the times we can see something the moment that we're dating someone. We can see in them the very things that were taught to us, and it looks familiar, even if it's dysfunctional. Our dysfunctions become very normal to us because it's what was taught to us. We're not trying to say anything that, our parents were bad or our siblings were bad or family was bad, but there are things that are rooted in us that we fight every single day to try and keep away. But yet it's hard to do. So I think about in my family, or things that I saw, whether it be something sexual, that I saw all the time. And so you're trying to think, why am I such, a sexual being? Or if you see somebody, being mistreated, why am I okay with being mistreated? If you yourself are a grown woman and then you are in, you are in these abusive relationships emotionally or physically, then now your children see that, we're trying to figure out why now they go on to be in relationships and they accept bad behavior because they think that it's okay to accept this, right? So we're like, oh my God, hey Kay, how are you? Thanks for joining. And so we think about, what are we doing? But until we really hone in and identify, it's not going to be pretty. You're going to reach back and think about, what happened to me? It don't even have to be your childhood. It could be something as a teenager. What happened to me to make me up to be the person that I am? And what is making me think that it's okay to be mistreated, that it's okay not to be treated well in a relationship, and why am I accepting this? And so the one thing you have to do is you have to make a list. We go against the list, like, don't make a list when you're looking for a mate. But this list is about some of the things that's tormenting you right now from your past. What are the things that I saw? What are the things that I felt? And now as an adult, it doesn't feel good. Why am I who I am? It could actually be good things. Like, I have these great traits of who I am, and I know I can take that on into a relationship. But I also have these bad seeds. And they say, trees that are planted by the river, sometimes those things uproot, and we see them all in us, and we see the branches just sticking out of us. Not only do we see them, but other people, if there is someone else broken and they can identify those very seeds that they see, those bad seeds that are planted into you, they're going to attach to you. And now you all are living in these cycles that we are not willing to break, because it just feels better not to have to address what happened to us from the past. So make sure that you're identifying those things that are keeping you bound, whether it be something, it could be alcohol, it could be sex, it can be these dysfunctions, it can be a multitude of things that are keeping you bound. And as I said, for me, I'll pop in and out of being very personal, about how I became who I am. And I'll think about even when I saw adultery. I witnessed adultery in my family. And so every day, you have to think about, what happened, where you're jaded about marriage. In my head, I would always say, I never want to be married. And I couldn't figure out for the life of me why I wasn't that little girl planning this wedding. And you know why? Because I saw so much adultery that marriage somehow wasn't sacred to anybody that I saw being married. It was very lackadaisical. So I was like, why would I be married when no one's going to respect the sanctity of the covenant, right? And so I'll be honest, it wasn't until just recently that I realized what made me be so jaded about marriage. What made me say that I never want to be married. I'm okay with just having a companion. And I think that's because in my head, if I didn't get married and then somebody cheated on me or did something bad to me, I wouldn't feel so bad, because I'm not getting married to get divorced. I don't date with the end in mind, but those were things that I saw, and it really, really planted this seed of marriage is a bad thing. Like even if you just see people having babies all the time at a very young age, then now you're thinking to yourself, all these things are okay. So I'll continue on in this very same path down my life. It's okay for me, and I'm not dogging anybody for teenage pregnancy. Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying things that we see are the things that we repeat. And so we mimic people who we love. We mimic people who we see that we trust. Until we get older, the very people that we trusted and the things that they taught us make us not trust people in our adult lives, because we've seen them do bad things and we've adopted it as our very own truth. But once we get, we take that into our adult behaviors, and now all of a sudden, all of this is no longer right. So you have to uproot. For me, it was about seeing adultery all the time growing up. For me, it was about the over-sexualization, that I saw all the time. And I'm just being really, really honest, because if I'm not honest with me, it's very difficult for me to have a healthy relationship. We will go through our lives, year after year after year, continuing to attach to bad relationships because it seemed so normal as a child to see these bad relationships. And we were always told, what goes on in this house stays in this house. Absolutely not. It's things that you may not bear the whole truth, but nothing hidden ever gets healed. And so if you're continuing to hide something, it will never be healed. I remember trying to go to family members, to share about why I felt the way I did, the very things I'm sharing with you right now. And it was very much brushed under the rug. Like, okay, all right, that happened and it's okay. So it let me know that they were, subconsciously also affected by these bad seeds that were being planted, but somehow we brush them under the rug, because in our culture, you don't tell what's going on in your life, and somehow we just think it's going to disappear. We think it's not going to show up in our lives, and that we're just going to be okay. Nothing could be further from the truth. You're going to see it, and the bad thing about it is, if you don't see it, in you, and you think that you're okay with it, you are subconsciously passing it on. Those generational curses, you're passing it on to your children. So we have to be very careful in our actions, in our behaviors, in our thoughts. You know, they say our thoughts, you know, become who we are. It is the very truth, because whatever in you, it's what you start to see. Have you ever been having a conversation with a friend that's really close to you and knows your innermost secrets, and then they'll start to identify these very bad curses, generational curses that you have on your life, and you're looking, you know it, but you don't want to admit it, because the moment that you speak it, you now have to be accountable for who you are. You have to be accountable for what you have owned as your truth. Now, things that we learned, we are in a new generation. We have everything at our fingertips. Our children have everything at their fingertips. So now we have to be very careful in our actions. We have to be very careful in things that we do, things that we are owning. You don't have to own every single thing that you were taught. Some of those things you just have to say, this is not my truth. This is not who I am, and I don't have to accept it. So right now, you have to be thinking to yourself, am I a dysfunctional grown woman? Am I a dysfunctional grown man? And what is it that made me be this way? It could be some kind of, you know, it could be a sexual abuse that that you're not really owning up to. It, like I said, you know, for me, I'm trying to, every day I fight to fight off the fact that I think marriage is a bad thing. And I say it out my mouth, and I'm telling you, as I say it, it is very painful for me to admit that I think marriage is a bad thing. And it's only because of the adultery that I saw going on even today. So much adultery, and how, you know, we accept things. And so how we continue to define these things, we'll say, oh, men are going to be men, so we just accept that bad behavior. Absolutely not. There are expectations that I have from people, expectations, as I said last week, that I have of myself. And the reason why I have to continue to have my affirmations about who I am, because if I don't affirm within me the greatness, the love that I am love, then I'm going to continue to believe that I'm not good enough to get someone in my life that's going to love me through the pain. Someone in my life that's going to say, it's not okay for you to behave this way. It's not okay for you to think this way. And just understand that I'm not him. I am me. Give me an opportunity to prove my integrity, my character. Let me earn my trust, and stop making me pay for your past. Stop making me pay for what your ex did, because a lot of the times that first love is our Father. You know, that first love is, you know, whatever we saw, that even if it wasn't a good thing that we saw when it came to a relationship, that's what we adopted as what a relationship is supposed to look like. So if you saw bad relationships, if you saw someone always talking bad to someone, so when someone starts to talk bad to you, it's just going to feel normal to you. You're not going to dispute it. You know that it doesn't feel right, because you know what it felt for that person on the receiving end when you saw it in your past, right? So we have to say, this is not okay. You have to say to yourself, I am not okay. I am not my past. I do not have to accept bad behavior. I do not have to continue in this generational curse that continues. It's like you feel suffocated by your past, and it is actually having a stronghold on your present, and it's having a stronghold on your future. And so now we get mad at our children, we get mad at family members, because we see them operating in this same capacity, and now we're like, why are you acting like that? It's because it's what you have now taught them. So let's start, we have to start fresh. We have to forgive ourselves, forgive our past, forgive whoever passed this down to us, because people only teach us what they know. They can only teach us what they know. We know better. And guess what? Our children will go on to know better than us. But we have a responsibility to be accountable and uproot these seeds that are planted in us. And we can create great fruit. We can create great ground and begin to plant seeds of love, plant seeds of security and not insecurities, plant seeds of you are good enough, plant seeds of I'm sorry. You have to apologize and say, you know what? Apologize to yourself, apologize to whoever is, you're passing the torch on to, and say, I'm sorry. I don't always get this right, but I want to start to create better ground, create seeds that are going to bear great fruits, and not create these seeds that these weeds keep sprouting up in us, and that now we can't figure out why we are who we are, why they are who they are. We know it, but we'll hide behind a mask of deceiving ourselves that I'm not that person. I didn't do that. You know how we always say, I'm never going to be my mother. But you can't really avoid that. You can alter some things, but some things that are in your DNA, you can't alter your DNA, but you can certainly alter and say, I don't have to be this. And it's not a bad thing against anyone else, but you can start to create some sense of normalcy in your life and say, okay, this is not okay. I want to be a better person, because every day I'm fighting, as I've shared in the past, someone always telling me, no one will ever marry you, or whatever. And, in my head, I was like, okay, even though it was a bad thing, but why would I want to? Because you all aren't handling this very well, so why would I want to enter into a covenant of deception, a covenant of lies? And sometimes we just do it to do it, but we're not respecting the very thing that is connected to, and the God that has connected and created this very love and this covenant. So we have to figure out what seeds are planted inside of us that we continue to carry around. And we have these seeds, we don't even know. It's in our car, it's at work, it's on our desk. Everywhere we go, we carry it. Every time we meet someone, we automatically prejudge and say, we're going to automatically think that they are that absent father. We're going to think that they are that father that cheated on my mother. We're going to think that they're that father that talked down to my mother. We're going to continue to believe that all of these things are okay. And so why am I who I am? We need to start to speak things into our own lives. See, we want to speak great things over our children, and it's really hard to speak it if you're not living it, because they won't believe you. They will say, my mother continues to tell me that I should get me a man that treats me good. My mother continues to tell me, don't let nobody do this to me. Don't let people mistreat me. But every day I see my mother being mistreated by a man. Let that sink in. You can't teach them what you are not actually living. My shirt says, I'm living my truth. I've not always lived my truth, and sometimes I probably still sink into a lie every once in a while that I have told myself or that someone else has told me. And so as you're trying to teach and break generational curses and create generational blessings, make sure that you are forgiving yourself, that you are apologizing to yourself, because God has already forgiven us. We don't need to continue to beat ourselves up. Okay, we make mistakes. We're human. Now, what's next? What's the solution? What do I do? The first thing you do is create a list of things that you know are suffocating the life out of you. Create a list of things that you know are holding you, that has a stronghold on you and keeping you from experiencing life, from experiencing the love that you know you deserve. And then next, start to forgive yourselves. You know, I'm all about affirmations. If you have to write an affirmation and say, I forgive you. If every day that you get up and you look in the mirror and you say, oh my God, you are so bomb, I love you. Even if you don't feel like it, even if it's not what you feel right that moment, guess what? You'll remember it. And then things that are repetitive are things that you start to believe. So you have to say to yourself, I am love. I forgive you. And what you don't know, you don't know. And then once you start to live that life, you'll start to turn around the things in your children's life. You'll start to see and say, you know, you'll start to see the difference in them. You'll start to see the difference in yourself, and you'll start to see the difference in what you're attracting, who you're attracting, and you'll also see people who will start to fall out of your lives, whether it be friends, whether it be relationships, because anybody that has not adopted the same mentality of uprooting these bad planted seeds, then they are not going to want to be attached to you, because it's too painful for them to have to be accountable for who they are or who they are not. And that's okay. But what we don't want to do is judge them, because we're trying to break new ground. We're trying to create great soil that's going to uproot some great, you know, some flowers, some plants. We want to water things that we know will continue to flourish. You know how they say the grass is greener on the other side? No, you're just not watering the grass that you have. And so once the grass goes bad, you know, you see somebody, they got brown grass everywhere. Now they got to dig everything up and they have to lay new soil. It's time for you to dig up that brown grass. It's time for you to uproot those seeds and lay down some new soil and say to yourself, I am good enough. I do not have to accept my past. And when you start to hear people talk so, you know, strongly about, I'm not that person, I'm this, I'm that, it's just denial. But what happens is, it's easy to say it and say, I have faith, I don't live in fear. And then when you're by yourself, you are drowning inside of your own lies, and you're wearing this mask. And once you take it off to yourself, but then you put it right back on when you go out. For me, I know people always say, oh my God, you know, you just share so much. And I don't know, I probably have a lot of stuff that I've not shared, but there are things God gave me, you know, purpose through my pain. And I would be remiss not to share with you the reason why I don't believe, you know, and I'm not going to say, because now I'm, you know, planting that seed to myself. I won't say that I no longer believe in marriage. I was just very jaded by it because of the adultery that I seen, because of all of the things that I saw that was attached to it, because I was taught that this was a good thing. I was 9 years old. One of these people, like, you know, people would come to my door and, you know, want to talk about God and stuff. And my mother say, I just sit there and want to talk about it. So I've always known there was this purpose, you know, that was on me, but I went through so much pain, and I saw so many bad things happen, that it really made me feel like it's not okay. And that people are like, well, I'm just attached to this person for financial reasons, or I'm attached to this person because I don't want to be alone. But for me, I want to be able to believe in love at the level that it is. And I don't want to look at it as something that I know God has created to be a good thing, and now I'm created to be a bad thing because of bad seeds. So we have to really address who we are. We have to adopt good things and really divorce the bad things that are creating all of, you know, just this discord within ourselves. We self-sabotage ourselves because we don't believe in us. But yet we want to tell our children, you're leaders, you're this, you're that. And they're like, Mom, you know, or Dad, how do you expect me to believe that when you're allowing this man to treat you that way? Or when you are, you know, trotting all these women in and out of our lives? We are creating generational curses. And if you want to live your life, you know, all haphazardly or willy-nilly, as they say, then you don't really need to do that in front of your children. Don't continue to create generational curses. And I'm not just speaking to someone else. I'm speaking to myself, because I can remember living this just haphazard life and not thinking of how I was now going to have to uproot these seeds in my own children. And one day driving down I-55 and stopping on the side of the road and could barely see because I was crying so hard. And I just had to say to them, I'm sorry. And I remember doing that probably over 8 years ago. I'm sorry, because, it starts even if we're screaming all the time and we're, like they think now fighting is normal. Well, my parents did it, and you get with someone that believes in talking things out and rationally working through it, but we're like, all the time about everything. That's how we handle it. And then when we see them doing it, we're like, we realize right then and there the seed that we've planted in them, whether it be good or whether it be bad. And I didn't mean this to be a down moment, but what I know for sure is trying to get to the path of your purpose and live your truth is sometimes uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for us to admit to ourselves, and it's uncomfortable for others to say, to us who we are. But I'll tell you, your true friends will tell you exactly who you are, what they see in you. And a lot of the times it's not because they're judging you, it's because they are your friends, and it's because they themselves have identified in them the very seeds that were planted in them. So if you know what your seeds are, if you know that generational curse that has you bound, that is a stronghold, then I say to you, make a list of it. Do not keep that list, but look at what you need to do to get that list down and start to plant your own seeds of love, your own seeds of being secure about who you are, your own seeds of forgiveness. And that is so key, because God has already forgiven us, but we hold ourselves to our past and we allow it to control everything in our lives. And somehow we think that our past is our fate because we just don't know how to divorce it. Okay, something happened. I plead with you to let it go. Let it go and start to create a life of purpose, a life of love, and start to pass those generational blessings down to your own children, blessings to your siblings, and just learn to forgive. If they don't know how to forgive you, then people start to see how you're forgiven, and they either will change or they will disconnect from you. But one thing you can't do is you can't be accountable for all of them. You can just be accountable for who you are, make the change, and move forward. We have to start living now and going forward. We can't continue to say, but. There is no but. It's and I'm going to do this. There is no but. You have to get that out. Your mom said, don't say the word I can't. Then you need to not use that word, and you need to say, I am who I am, but I'm not who I was. My past will not define me. And some of the things that you're speaking, you have to just stop talking about it. You have to stop talking about it, because every time we bring it up, it attaches to our spirit and becomes who we are. That's why, as I was telling you about how I felt about marriage earlier, I had to change my verbiage and not speak into it. But I was just trying to show you what one of my bad seeds was that was uprooting in my life. So I hope that something that I have said tonight has resonated with you. I hope that the things that you were told to hide in your past, that you are now no longer hiding. Anything that's hidden, cannot be healed. That is one of my mantras. I don't want to hide what happened to me, because if I hide it, then I will own it and I will no longer heal it. And so we are making generational curses. We are now making them generational blessings. And we are now creating great soil, and our soil is bearing great fruit. We are no longer allowing our past to just suffocate us. We want to have great relationships, but it's very difficult to have a good relationship when you believe that you're not even worthy of it, or that someone has told you that you're not worthy of it. I've been told that, but I know better because I've had great relationships. But I myself, have sabotaged them because of things that were told and taught to me. So be who you know you are and not who someone else tells you that you are supposed to be. Don't live up to your past. Don't live up to society standards. Live up to God's standards for sure. And also live up to who you know you're supposed to be. We all know we have that burning thing inside of us of what we're supposed to be. And until we let go of what somebody told us that we could not be, we'll continue to own that. I'm owning great things about me. I'm owning amazing relationships. I'm owning amazing friendships. I am love. I am not my past, and I am thebomb.com, and so are you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in into another episode of The Unfiltered Truth. And share. Let me know your thoughts. Give me some feedback, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye-bye.